Greetings, people of the interweb. Today's video, I'm going to be going over some things on my Da Vinci 3D printer. I don't know if you've seen, it's not really a Da Vinci anymore. I mean, it is, but it's not. If you see my previous videos, you'll know that I have the E3D V6 print head. You'll know that I have these wire chain mods, and that the biggest mod that I did, which is probably the best mod, most people will tell you, is I flashed the stock motherboard with the Repetier host firmware. And right here we have the stock motherboard. Now this was great and I loved it, and I had a lot of good prints for a long time. The only problem is I actually fried the Da Vinci motherboard. And when I first got this printer, I bought this printer on eBay for parts are not working. Long story short, all it needed was a belt for this back corner here, which you can't really see because it's dark, but there's a belt that goes down in there that I had to replace. That was like $8 from Sears. So in the meantime, before I discovered that the belt was the problem when I first got this printer, I was going over the internet and looking up all kinds of different ways to fix it, common problems, things like that. One of the videos mentioned that the where is it here? There's a resistor. Do I have this upside down? I do have this upside down. There's a resistor, and I know my camera's got no focus, but right here, in that little shiny spot, that's a blob of solder, because I pulled the resistor off and soldered it. That resistor works like a fuse, so if you ever take the two wires that go to the heating element, the heater cartridge, and they cross together, they'll burn that fuse out as opposed to burning the motherboard. Well, because originally I thought that might be a problem, I desoldered it and eliminated that resistor fuse. So now, when I was working on it last, my heater cartridge was going out. I touched the wires together and I fried the motherboard. So that's pretty much dead. So now what we're doing is we're putting the Arduino Mega 2560, I believe, with the RAMPS board. So basically we're giving this the same setup that you'd find in a RepRap or a Prusa. So basically what I've done, I've went ahead and mounted it right here on the back of the printer. Now I could have put it down in here, but the reason I put it here is because it comes with this LCD monitor, which is right here. Now this LCD monitor, the cable is only so long. I want the monitor on the front of the machine right here, so I wanted to make sure I can run the cable. So that's why I put this board right here. And it may be kind of tacky, but it's held on with Velcro. But another thing I did was I took a fan that I had, one of these LED fans, and I cut this really clean hole. Look at how clean that hole is. I cut this hole with my teeth, and then I used a jigsaw, and then I put the fan in right over the stepper drivers. If you can see there, you can see the little heat sink. There's one of them. There's the other one. There's another one there. So that'll keep these nice and cool, and of course it's wired in to the power supply. So let's go over some of the things I did in order to make this happen. To start with, I'm using the stock Da Vinci power supply. And the stock Da Vinci has several outputs of power. It's got a 3 volt, it's got a 5 volts, it's got like 3 12 volts. We only need 2 of those 12 volts. They have to be on a separate circuit. So those run into the Arduino board. Another thing I've done is the first thing I did was obviously stripped it down. So that's the first thing you're going to want to do. Strip it down, get all the plastics off, get it down to its bare naked. Then you're going to want to remove all of the optical end stops. And if you look here, you'll see I've already installed all the mechanical end stops. And they are hot glued into place. But they're in the proper position, so if I slide this over, you'll hear it's getting kind of, there we go. When I slide that over, you'll see it clicks. The same thing goes with the other ones. If you see here, there's the It's pretty dark, but take my word for it, there is an end stop here. So that's for the Z-axis. When the bed comes all the way up, you'll see that the end stop clicks, telling the computer to disable that stepper motor because the bed's in the top position. If you don't know, that's what the end stops essentially do. They stop it from to keep going when it can't go any further. So basically all three end stops are hot glued into place. They're all in a proper fixture to where they'll stop it in just the right spot. And that actually ended up being really easy. Once I removed the old optical end stops, I was able to take the new ones and just find a spot to kind of set them, and then just hot glue them down, and they work perfect. Now, I don't know if that hot glue is going to really hold over a long period of time, but if one comes loose, I could always peel the glue off, glue it again, or even epoxy it. Which I don't want to epoxy it, because if that end stop goes bad and I have to change it, then it's going to be a lot more work. But anyway, what I'm going to do now, I'm going to take these plastics off so I can show you exactly what's going on inside this printer and exactly what's going on with the wiring. But again, to recap, the first thing that you need to do is strip all the plastics off your Da Vinci. It's a little tedious because you got to use that little T10 screwdriver, Torx bit, and there's a lot of little screws, but get all the plastic off. Leave the bottom, because that bottom plastic is a pain in the butt to get off. But leave that. Just take off all the outside plastics, remove all the wiring except for the stepper motor wires. Leave those wires behind, but remove all the old end stop wiring, and also remove the LED. Excuse me. Oh, the McDonald's is coming back to haunt me. Remove the LED strips, because you're not going to use those anymore. At least I'm not. You may, but it's kind of a pain in the butt to figure out the wiring to get them to work again. So I would just pull them out, because it's easier just to put something new in there instead. So once you've removed everything and you're down to the metal case and you're down to just the bare mechanics, and like I said, leave the wires for the stepper motors, once you've gotten that far, then you're ready to start piecing it all together. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to take it apart and I'm going to show you what I've done so far, which I'm really not that far ahead. There's really not much you missed other than putting strips of Velcro on the back of the Arduino board and sticking it to the back of the printer. I mean, I've ran a few wires, but it's all basic stuff, so I'll go over it all right now. Okay, so here it is. Here's the RAMPS board on the Arduino Mega. Say that 5 times fast. So basically, let's start with the power supply, because these are the first wires that I hooked up. Now, the power supply on the Da Vinci, it's got several outputs. You've got 2 blacks and 2 yellow here. Those are 2 grounds and 2 12 volts. And then over here, you've got a red, an orange, a yellow, and a black. The yellow and black are another 12 volt source. The red is 5, I believe, and the orange is 3, but I could be backwards on that, so don't quote me on that. You could always use a multimeter and find out for sure. Now, the Arduino board, if I can get a shot here, if we look at this main plug right here, and I know the lighting is not that great, you guys, and I apologize for that, but if you look here, you've got this main power plug that plugs in. As you see, we got a yellow and a black and a yellow and a black. So I basically took a yellow and a black from one of these two, and I took the yellow and the black from this side. I probably could have used both of these, but I just chose to do one from each because I'm weird. I don't know, it doesn't matter. As long as those are both 12 volts. So I got a 12 volt going in there and a 12 volt going in there, and that's my power that powers the board. Now if you look over here, you'll see we've got all our end stops plugged in. Now, an important note when plugging in your end stops, do not plug them in backwards, because when you go to press an end stop to test it, it will fry the voltage regulator on the Arduino Mega, which I did. So I actually have to order another Arduino Mega, but for the purposes of educational video making, I decided to make this video anyway, even though I'm using a fried board. So yeah, I have to replace the Arduino Mega. I did, by the way, try to desolder the original voltage regulator and solder on a new one, and it worked for like 2 seconds and then stopped working because I think I used the wrong voltage regulator. I used a Radio Shack one I had laying around. Didn't work out so good, so just gonna order a new Arduino, and then I'm gonna order the voltage regulator too, so I could fix the old one. That way later I'll have an extra one in case I need it. Alright, so that's the end stops. Now, one thing about these end stops is that it goes XYZ from bottom to top. So this bottom one is X, Y, and Z. That's X minimum, X maximum, Y minimum, Y maximum, Z minimum, Z maximum. Now, I don't have an end stop to max out. I only have the minimum position end stops. So every other one of these spaces is used. So I've got those hooked up, and those all run to those end stops that I showed you earlier that are hot glued into place. This blue wire here that I plugged in, this was originally the wire that came from the heat bed. Those two blue wires that are on either side of the bed that are held on with these screws right here, those aren't needed anymore. But I reused the wire because it had the cool plug at the end of it that I could plug right into this Arduino. And that's going to be for my thermistor, for this heater head. Now this top red and black one, those are for the thermistor for the heater bed. The blue ones are for the extruder. I know I said heat bed the first time. These blue ones are for the extruder. There's red and black ones for the heat bed. So that's pretty much that. And then the only other wires really are the stepper motors. Now I'm waiting on the little pin connectors to come in the mail so I can hook these up. All these little stepper motors up. I have this diagram I got off the internet. Don't ask me for a link because I don't know where I found it. It was Google Images. You can find these if you type in Arduino ramps pin out on Google Images. You'll eventually come across this and others like it. But it basically shows on the ramps board where everything plugs in. So you can see there's our 3 steppers right there for counting the extruder. So that's how those plug in, and when I get the plug-ins, I'll plug those in too. Again, I have to replace the Arduino Mega board because I fried it. So, you know, I'm going ahead and doing this and finishing it up anyway because of the fact that I wanted to A, make this video, and B, I just want to have everything hooked up so that when I do get the new Arduino Mega, I can just stick it on there, bada bing, bada boom, done. So that's that. Now, as far as the USB cable goes, I basically just hooked the USB cable up, ran it down through here. Now this piece where it used to run through, I bent it backwards and zip tied it, and I'm just running it through the hole on the side of this piece here. This is kind of a long USB cable. It's got some decent length to it, so I have an extension piece too if I need to extend it, so it's not a big deal. I was going to desolder the USB port on this board and then solder it to like a small breadboard, like one of these. I'm saying one of these like I've got one, like one of these. I was going to solder it onto one of those and then fix it into here so that I'd still have a USB port, but I thought, to heck with it, man, that's too much work. This is just asinine. So it is what it is. But basically, there's been a couple of things I've had to do to mod the plastics. Now, in order to make this all fit together, I did have to cut a notch here, and that's basically to let the wiring through. And then I've had to cut a matching notch over here. What in the heck is going on? It's stuck. It's stuck. Okay. There we go. So I've had to cut a notch right there in order to accommodate for this wiring to come through. And then I've also, more importantly, cut a notch at the top here, and that goes here. Now that's the next part that I want to show you guys. I do have the LCD screen. I do have the LCD screen right here, as you can see, and it plugs in like this onto the ramps board. Now this cable is basically going to run right across the top all the way to the front, and the LCD screen is going to be mounted. I know I'm beating all of this stuff up. You guys are probably like, what is wrong with this dude? So this screen's going to mount over here, just like this, and that's going to be on the face. One of the first things I'm going to 3D print is going to be the shell, the case for that screen, and then I'm going to mount it to the front of the Da Vinci where the old screen was to kind of cover that up and make that look like it never existed. But that's pretty much it, guys. I mean, if you don't know how to assemble the RAMPS board in the Arduino Mega, there's plenty of videos on how to do that. There's tons of research out there. The one thing I can tell you, the only thing that people ever mess up are the little jumper pins that go underneath these individual RAMPS boards. So before you put these RAMPS boards on, you want to put all those little jumper pins. They go long ways like this. Make sure you do that. As you can see, I only have one extruder, so this one I'm not even using, which is cool because that gives me an extra. So I have a spare. So I don't know what else to say. Oh, one smart thing you can do is label these with the most nicest penmanship you possibly can, like I did. The E right there, clearly it's an E, and then Z and X and Y. So I've labeled all the stepper motors so I know what's what when I'm hooking them up to the RAMPS board. So that's pretty much it, other than the software end of it. I'll try to make a video on that. I can't promise anything, but I should, because I actually learned how to do this from Dope Soner. I don't know if you've seen his videos, but watch Dope Soner's videos. I'll put a card in and a link. Click here to see Dope Soner's video. He did a video on doing this RAMPS conversion. His is not really detailed, but neither is mine. So, but as far as the software aspect goes, he did a good video on that. I'm going to do one myself, and I'm going to feature a few little nuances that he left out that I've discovered. So anyway, for now, that's it. Like and subscribe. Oh, and another thing. This is important. If you are doing this conversion on your Da Vinci 3D printer and you're still using the stock Da Vinci printhead, punch yourself in the face right now. I'll wait. Okay, did that hurt? You cannot use the stock Da Vinci printhead with this setup. And let me explain why. Da Vinci uses an oddball heater cartridge, an oddball thermistor on both the bed and the extruder. Let's talk about the heater cartridge first. The heater cartridge is a 12 volt 35 watt. Very hard to find. You can buy them in bulk from like Alibaba and those other places online if you're ready to spend $400 or $500 on, like, 50 of them. But other than that, they are impossible to find. The 12 volt 35 watt, possible to find. Same thing with the thermistor. The thermistors you can find, but they're a little tricky. The thermistor is a 500K 3%. Now, no other 3D printer uses a 500K thermistor. They all use 100K, some use 200K, but for the most part, they're all using 100K thermistors. So the Da Vinci board, and even with the Repetier flash, they know to compensate in the heater tables in the code, in the firmware code, to write it out for to work essentially for the 500K resistor. So that being said, if you're using a stock Da Vinci printhead, punch yourself in the face, because you're not going to be able to unless you change out the heater cartridge with a standard rep 12 volt 40 watt heater cartridge, and change out the of course, by the way, I'm not certain about the heater cartridge. It might still work, but definitely the thermistor won't. The thermistor is a 500K. The software for, if you're, by the way, this is for Marlin. I probably should have mentioned that earlier. I'm going to be running Marlin on this, and so the firmware that I'm flashing this for is going to be for Marlin. But there is no option in the Marlin coding, and if I'm wrong, leave a comment and correct me, but there is no option in the Marlin coding to when you're setting your thermistor value for a 500K thermistor for a Da Vinci style thermistor. So if you're using the stock Da Vinci printhead, you'll need a regular 100K thermistor. You'll probably need a heater cartridge that's the 40 watt, not the 35. And then the bed as well. That's a problem that I'm going to have. As of right now, if this worked and I hooked it up, my bed wouldn't heat. The reason my bed wouldn't heat is because the thermistor for the bed is a 500K. So I have to replace the bed thermistor with a 100K. So I still have yet to do that. So once I do that, I'll be good to go. But I'm going to be putting this back together. Oh, and by the way, if you're wondering how I got my E3D V6 to work with the Repetier host and with the stock Da Vinci's firmware before, because that was the first mod I ever did, was the E3D V6. But if you're wondering how I got it to work, I simply took the thermistor and the heater cartridge out of the stock Da Vinci unit and put it in the E3D. So that's how I was able to use an E3D with my Da Vinci. I did also burn up the thermistor at one point and was able to get online and find 500K thermistors, 3% thermistors that worked, and I was up and running again, which was awesome. Now I have like 4 of them left. I'll never use them again unless I buy another Da Vinci. But anyway, yeah, so if you're doing this mod, you'll want the E3D V6 or a Pico, whatever the MK5, whatever your poison is, whatever hot end you prefer. And if you want to use the Da Vinci, if you're that retarded, go for it. I mean, like I said, you're going to have to change the heater cartridge and the thermistor. If you started doing this project and you're like, well, I don't have the parts printed to convert, well, then you're going to have to use your stock E3D setup, change that thermistor, change that heater cart, and the first thing you should print is the carriage for the E3D V6, or the adapter kit rather. So anyway, that's all for this video. I'm signing off. Thanks for watching. Make sure you hit like, hit subscribe. If you guys have questions about your 3D printers, specifically Da Vinci's, because I know them up, down, and sideways, just shoot me a message and I'll see if I can't help you out. But in the meantime, I'm going to go ahead and work on this a little bit more, and I will update you with another video once all the electrical's done. Peace.